Welcome into our Week 7 edition of Sleeper Picks on the FF channel, associated with the league winners. It is myself, Mr. Pru Patel. How you doing today, Pru?
Doing good, doing good. Looking forward to a Thursday night football game here.
Yeah, it should be a good one. I'm pretty excited for the game. We got a lot of high-end fantasy assets, and that's like where we're coming from, right? So yeah, we get, fun guy like Kamara, ETN, we get T-Law, we get Derek Carr and his whatever shoulder, Michael Thomas, a few other guys. But yeah, it's a fun matchup. I'm pretty excited, and hopefully this game is not as chaotic as the last few weeks have been, because these Thursday night games have been interesting to say the least. Our sleeper picks have been good. They've been bad. They've been kind of all over the place. But we're hitting a little over 50%. It looks like. So you know what? That's a win for me. I'm okay with that. If you're in the green when you're betting, like that's always a win. So I like where we're standing right now. And I think we have some good ones for this game coming forward. Like what are you kind of like looking forward to seeing in this game?
When I was looking at this game, it was appalling. Kind of the Jacksonville Jaguars are obviously the better team, but when you kind of look into it a little bit deeper, they're almost essentially the same team when you start peeling the onion. And outside of injuries right now, because of the Saints are dealing with so many injuries, the Jags are a little bit better from a real NFL football point. But if you kind of dial it down, both D lines are really, really good. Mm-hmm. They're playing some good secondary defense. They do have lapses in their secondaries. And on offense, the biggest caveat that I saw was Jacksonville might be they do tend to run the ball a little bit more than the Saints, which is weird because the Saints used to be a pretty good run team, at least a high volume run team up until this year. But it's a lot of the same with both teams. But we've seen with Thursday night football games where you might seem like a good matchup on paper, identical matchup, but then you just all of a sudden just see one team start flat and the other team just take advantage and run up the score. So it'll be interesting.
Yeah, and the caveat being, like, with the Saints in particular, their offensive line is in shambles. They're missing 3 starters. They benched Penning last week. They're hoping to get him back. So, like, this is a rough matchup for them to go against the Jaguars because they might not be able to generate that force to run the ball, and we might have to see a lot of passing attempts, which wasn't the worst thing in the world because you have some good wide receivers over there, but it could be ugly. Like, and Jamal Williams coming back. He's supposed to play. I don't know how big of a role he's going to play. So there's some of that with Kamara and his usage on top of Kendra Miller, whatever's going on with those backups there, right? So it's Kamara's, I think his expected fantasy points leads all running backs by a lot. Like he's at like 22, 23 expected fantasy points, which is absurd. That's like more than Christian McCaffrey. So FYI, he's been very, very good. If you have him and you drafted him, you got to be loving life. But I think kind of stepping into these props, do you want to get into the first one?
Yeah. What's the first one? Yeah.
Our first one. Let's do the Kamara one. All right. So this is, as we were talking about it, this is the free money square from Sleeper where they just were like, hey, here's a gift for first-time users. Like, use the as you see in the background, the FFLW promo code. Use it to $100 deposit for first-time users. They will match it for you. So, like, do that and take advantage of it. They've dropped his rushing line. It was at 53, I think it was. They dropped it down to 49.5 because of the line issues. And Sleeper was like, guess what? All you need is 1 rushing yard. So this is more of a free square one. If you're going to bet at all in this game, take this bet and just make it to the bank because it's free money. As long as he plays right, he's going to get more than 1 yard. He's not going to get negative yards or anything like that. So this is a free one. There is another Kamara prop, which I do find interesting. Because this one's pretty self-explanatory. We don't need to do too much research on this one, right? It's like, can he get 1 rushing yard? Yeah, but it's his receptions total. It's 4.5. So we go right here. It's 4.5 is his receptions line. Why I like this one so much is because the Jaguars are top 6 in targets, top 4 in receptions, a lot of the running back, and the depth of target is actually pretty high as well. So with the issues Carr's had, and how involved the issues Derek Carr's had with his shoulder. He's been checking down on Kamara a lot, and his like target rate and his targets per route run is like off the charts. He's like being Austin Eckler from last year. It just seems like it's going to be a very odd game script for him not to hit this. So this feels like a smash to me as well. Like if you could take either one of these props, I would happily take both these Kamara props and do them because it seems fairly easy for him to get five receptions in this game.
Yeah, and I agree with you. And the other thing is, like I mentioned in this week's Game Day Edge article, a lot of teams are now playing that, too high safety umbrella coverage. And what the offenses have been doing so far at the beginning of the season is dinking and dunking their way up the field. And that's where Kamara excels. It'll be interesting to see if offenses start pushing the ball a little bit further down, trying to attack that cover 2 in its weak spots. But for right now, offenses and quarterbacks are taking what the defenses are giving them, and running backs are enjoying a resurgence out of the backfield in 2023. So
right,
I'm all on board on this prop bet.
It's interesting to me because Derek Carr was actually chucking it downfield a lot last year with Devontae Adams. And we kind of expected that with Chris Olave to serve that role. And he has to a point, but both of them have been dealing with injuries the past few weeks, so it's kind of cut into that. So he's chucking the ball downfield again a little bit more, but he's still just targeting Kamara so much. It's like, guess what? Like, he's going to be a focal point of the offense, particularly with the pressure that he's going to be under today because they're bringing in a bunch of backups on the line, which means he's not going to have as much time as he normally in the pocket. So, yeah, it just seems like the perfect storm to take the prop bet on this one. But we can jump into your Christian Kirk bet and talk about why you like the Christian Kirk one so much.
The reception one. The 4.5 reception for Christian Kirk makes a lot of sense. So even though both defenses are pretty good against the pass, they do have lapses. And I think the Saints D-line is really good at generating pressure. And Christian Kirk has, if you look at the past, since week 2, he's become sort of the go-to guy for Trevor Lawrence. And I think as the game goes on, and if there's pressure from the Saints D-line, which is one of the better D-lines out there, he's going to look to get the ball to Kirk. I think if you look at the reception yardage for both Christian Kirk and Calvin Ridley, or any actually prop, they're even, right?
Mm-hmm.
Vegas doesn't know who's going to be the one that gets targeted. So I'm leaning on Christian Kirk because I think Calvin Ridley, he succeeds further down in the A-dot tree. And I think Trevor Lawrence may not have the perfect time or the time to, target Ridley down the field. Obviously, one good play action and Ridley's free down the field. But I'm taking a more safer bet with Kirk, who does get targeted a lot over the in the intermediate range. And like I said earlier, with defenses playing cover 2 a lot and trying to limit the big play, Kirk is really, really good at that.
Yeah, because he's actually leading the team in targets and routes run and snaps and all of that. So like, we were so convinced it was Calvin Ridley to begin the season, and we saw how week 1 turned out. We're like, oh man, it's gonna be a Calvin Ridley smasher. But realistically, they've gone back and forth where it's like concentrated around those two and Evan Ingram. Zay Jones is out again, and the Saints give up the 10th most receiving yards to the slot, and he's going to get targeted. He's getting like one of the highest target rates against man coverage, and like against man coverage, the Saints play a lot of that too. So it seems like it's working out really well for Kirk, and I actually like this prop bet as well because he should hit that. And if you wanted to do the receiving yards as well, I think it's like 52, I think is what it is. Like, I would be happy to do either one of those, honestly, because that's where if I was projecting him, and I think I did, I'd add him like 70 yards for this game. So I'm on board with that for sure. I think it's a really good prop to take and go with it. And my dog is jumping around in the bed really quick, so hold on for a second. But yeah, like I'm with you. I think it's a very good prop to take. So ideally, if we're off to a 2-0 start, which hopefully we are, we'll see how that goes. That lets us get into the next one. And actually, no, we already did the Kamara one. Sorry, I'm gonna go to this one, and this is the Rashid Shaheed one. Why I like this one? It's 36.5 receiving yards. He is the deep threat, so realistically, all you need is one big play. But his receiving yards have been pretty good this year. And if we look at it, he's put up 85, 28, 63, 33, and 0. And he's basically seen 5 targets a game. So he's been kind of all over the place, boom, bust. But in this matchup, he's the one taking the top off the defense. Like, him and Olave play kind of a similar role. And now that Carr is healthy again, I'm trusting Rashid Shaheed to find that man coverage and beat it on one of these plays and take it at least 33 yards. So, like, that's kind of my expectation with this with Rashid. It is a little risky. Like, it's not 100% locked to hit this because, you know, Shaheed's kind of boom bust as the wide receiver 3 on that offense, but he's a focal point and he plays a big role. So that's kind of why I like Shaheed in this matchup. Is this kind of like a prop bet you would want to take, or is this one where you're a little bit more cautious on this one?
I mean, with Saeed, there's always a little bit of cautious because, you know, it's all dependent on him getting that long pass completed. And, you know, he does get targeted at the A dot that's really, really hard to complete. So his, you know, when targeting him, Derek Carr or whoever the Saints QB is, the completion rate is lower, but he has shown a knack game in and game out to come up on, you know, big third down plays, and the Carr just chucks it up in Saeed's direction, and he comes out with the ball. So I am all for that bet.
So we're – oh, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just pulling this up, and it looks like, you know, New Orleans Saints have given up 18 passes of 20-plus yards to opposing offenses, which is sort of in the middle of the range. So it definitely could hit.
Yeah, I think it is a little bit riskier. Like, this is the one that I liked it, but there is more little bit more risk just because the floor is lower with him. Like, he could have 4 targets, and if they don't connect downfield, like, he might end up with 20 yards. So yeah, there's risk to it, but I like taking the swing and chancing on this one. And as you can see, Sleeper's pretty bullish on this. But you'll notice a lot of the bets on Sleeper, like, people seem to be very bullish on all of the bets. I haven't run across one where it's like the flip of this, like at the bottom, it's like a 91%, right? I haven't seen one where people are like, oh, we're completely no on this, right? So right. My goal is to find one that's low. But yeah, I like this one a lot. But I'm going to pull up your second one, which is, where is it? I think it's this one right here, right? It's the ETN one. Yeah. So why don't you tell us why you like this ETN rushing and receiving yards over 89.5 in this game so much?
Yeah, so even though the Saints D is pretty good, there's two things favoring Travis Etienne, and it's volume. The Jaguars are running the ball in the top 10 as a team, and we know that Travis Etienne has been a snap or opportunity hog in the backfield. So even though, you know, there might be a lot of runs where he's running into a wall, there's going to be runs where he's going to break through the first line of defense just based on volume alone. And then I kind of added the reception yards because, like I keep saying, the defenses are playing cover 2, and Travis Etienne is gobbling up targets. And the Saints are giving up 7 yards per reception to Travis Etienne, to running backs. So I think that's going to be game scripted into Jaguars game to kind of alleviate some of the pressure from the Saints. So I think just based on volume and the efficiency on the through the air, this, what is it, 89.5 yards? I think he eclipses that.
Yeah, it's interesting. I know people were hyping up Tank Bigsby in the offseason, but he's just been outright bad. Like, he's been not good. So the Jaguars are like, all right, we have one good running back on the roster. We're going to trust them. So he's basically top 4 in opportunity share, top 3 in weighted opportunity. He's 9th in targets. He's first in the league in carries. Like, he's getting all of the work in this backfield. And as long as he's seen that, and I don't see why they would go away from it for him, right? Like, he's just going to be a bell cow. And he's one of the few guys, I think he's my RB 3 or 4 when ranking the running backs this week. Like, I'm all in Travis Etienne. So, like, by doing that, I'm expecting him to get well over this yardage total and produce. It's like setting up very be a feature part. Like, Lawrence is still dealing with that injury, his knee. He's not going to be super mobile, right? So he's not going to be able to scramble much in this game. So that means they're going to check it down to Etienne instead of him running. He's like, you know what, you just take the ball to, like, you know, help him out. Kind of like what the past few weeks. So yeah, it seems like an ideal bet to take. And I really like the approach of going to it, not just like rushing, but you're adding the receptions onto it. So you have 2 ways to kind of hit it, right? So if they're down in the rushing, they're not running well, they can still hit them with the receptions. And on the flip side, if it's just working well, the rushing attack, like, you could just feeding him either way. So he's going to get over 20 opportunities in this game at least. And I expect him to get past that. So yeah, I'm I'm all with you on this bet. When I saw you pick this one, I was like, yeah, this is a good one. I like it. I like where your head's at with this one.
Yeah, I mean, looking at this game, like I said, they're so similar teams in terms of structure, the way they run. Besides the one fact that the Jaguars tend to run the ball more than the Saints have this year, and that's kind of what alerted me to this prop bet was Travis Etienne's going to eat one way or the other. It's lining up for him, so he's definitely thinking about it now. I might actually play him in my one and done league this week.
Not a bad play. Not a bad play at all. Yeah, and he doesn't have the issue that Kamara has where, Kamara has Jamal Williams coming back and we don't know how much of a role he's going to play, but theoretically that could cut into his upside. Like the Jaguars have told us specifically, like, we don't trust Tank Bigsby. Anyone else on the roster? Not like this is Travis Etienne's backfield. So yeah, I like it doing in this matchup very much so. Yeah. Do you want to pull up your graphic on this one?
Yeah, I wanted to pull up these EPA ones from stats, and I keep saying, the Saints and the Jaguars are so identical. And if you look at on their defense, they're both really good against the rush per play, right? They're in the negative 0.2, and even in the drop back EPA per play allowed, they're not that off. They're off by like 0.05 for pass. It's like insane how much identical these teams are. And then on the flip side, when you look at sorry, I don't have it up. I'm stalling. But if you look at their offense EPA, they're like literally on top of each other. It's crazy.
It is. It's super like I love looking at when you see like such similarities between teams, right? You're like, these teams are basically just doppelgangers of each other. Like that's what they are. It's weird how the season kind of worked out because we all thought the Jaguars were going to be one of the best offenses in the league. Like Lawrence, those guys were all coming together, but they have left a lot to be desired. Like there's plenty of points, plenty of missed opportunities, and particularly with like Lawrence and like his issues just in the red zone. They've been super inefficient down there. So if that changes, like we could see that jump up a lot for them.
Yeah, and that's interesting. Like I haven't really done a lot of research on the Jaguars and why they have left so much on the table. But if you look around the league, I think the red zone efficiency outside of teams like the Dolphins and the Eagles and maybe I don't know if the Bills. I don't think they're that great in the red zone. Maybe the 49ers are up there as well. But outside of like those 2 or 3 teams are really struggling in the red zone. Look at Kansas City. Look at Cowboys. Oh, I know another one that's good. The Lions. The Lions have been really good in the red zone, and that's why they're one of the better teams. But outside of like the 3 or 4 teams, it's just like everyone is horrendous in the red zone, and I have no idea why.
Yeah, if you want to look at like touchdown percentage for red zone opportunities, my name is in Buffalo. It's 75 and 80%. Jacksonville's down at 50%, and it's kind of in that slog of teams you're talking about where they're just not scoring. Interesting enough, New Orleans is even worse. They're at 36%. They're like the bottom of the barrel scoring touchdowns in the red zone. So like both those teams should regress at some point to like being more capable offenses because you have some really bad offenses like the Giants, the Jets, and Pittsburgh, and they're just bad offenses. So that makes more sense.
Yeah. So I think it has to do with teams not being able to run the ball properly, or they're condensing the people to the ball, and they're not spreading them out in the red zone, giving the defense more advantage. At least I've seen that on the Ravens front, where they give up condensed look in the red zone a lot more than spreading them out, and I think that's hindering the red zone efficiency. But
yeah, and I was gonna say like some of the teams play like a lot of shotgun down in the red zone, so you're not giving your running back a head start, right? He's just kind of delaying and going instead of getting him a head start before he gets the ball. So I think some of that is there as well, where like that efficiency plays into it a little bit. But like I don't have the data to back it up. But I was like looking into it, and I was like, yeah, that makes sense, right? Because like you're starting well behind the line of scrimmage, you're not getting the run start. So yeah, like I could see that for sure.
Where is my game day stuff? I don't see it.
Let's see, I can pull it up. I'll go here.
It's not letting me share my Firefox window. Let's look at the running back tool.
Okay.
No.
All right.
I had it up on my Firefox, but yeah.
All right.
But Chrome won't like me sharing Firefox stuff. It shows me every other window except for my Firefox one, and I'm like,
thank you so much. This is glorious. Yeah. But yeah, you can hit on the stuff while I just kind of scroll through it if you want.
Yeah, hit the running back, and I think since two of our props are with running backs, we can take a really quick look at it.
Yeah, here's your the first one with the heat map, and you can kind of see where New Orleans is at right there.
It's frozen. You got to switch screens. You're presenting the.
Oh goodness gracious, my bad.
No,
it's my fault. There we go. Okay.
Yeah, I was like, what is he talking about? Scroll all the down. So this is a boom and bust for both, and you can see they're both the Jags and the Saints are either at the lower control line or below. But if you break it down further into Russ and receiving scores, I think that's where it's kind of eye-opening. Is you see the Jaguars are a little bit in the median, like right on the middle of the pack. The Saints look like they're at the lower end of the sigma for Russ score. But look at the receiving, they're at the, you got teams like Dolphins like blowing this chart out of the water. So, but concentrate on the blue line. The blue line is the upper median, right? So it's like half a sigma away from the median, and I think both the Jaguars and the Saints hit it, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, Saints are right here, and Jaguars are right here. Actually, Jaguars are right up against it.
Yeah, the Jags are right up against it, and the Saints are above it. So I think, like I said in the article, I think we're dead on. I think the two receiving running backs in Kamara and Etienne are gonna get a high level of volume just based on this matchups.
Yeah, for sure. I think this is what I like these game day games that you do. Like it gives you a different perspective of looking at like each matchup and how like the teams fare, and like where they're scoring their points from and how it works for them. And it's kind of like it's a fun, different way to look at it. And like the data is super helpful for particularly people that are taking prop bets and betting on players, right? Because you want this data to support your claims of like, oh, this guy's going to have a good game. And then we look into the data. It's like, well, is he actually going to have a good game? Or is this more just what we're expecting, right? So like, yeah, I like using this stuff to my advantage.
Yeah. And it's like you said, it's there to reaffirm what your initial takes were. Not to actually provide a 100% take, because what happens is like with running backs, this rush score might be low. What that tells me is on a per play basis, the opposing D line and front seven are really good at shutting down the run. But if a running back is going to get 20 plus carries, he's going to break one or two loose and score.
Yeah, for sure.
Case in point, Derrick Henry against the Ravens. He wasn't getting going, and bam, he's got that 60-yard run, and then ends up scoring a touchdown. That's why he got his fantasy points from one or two plays. But on a per play basis, the Ravens defense was actually doing a really good job.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you want to jump into the wide receivers, the quarterback, or the tight end?
I think the quarterback one's going to be interesting. I think you'll see that both quarterbacks are they have a tough matchup essentially. And if you look at the heat map specifically, I think what it opens up is the volume is there for both, right? I think their volumes are both green or light green in the Jaguars case. So the volume's going to be there just based on the fact that the Saints throw the ball more than they run. But if you look at the yardage and it's red or lower green on both cases, and you look at Jacksonville's, I think it's red. Yeah, it's red. It's like 212.
Yeah,
I was gonna take the Trevor Lawrence passing yard bet, but Sleeper got really cute with it and put it at 220. I'm like, oh, that is so close.
I took the Stroud last week, but they got just like against the Saints, but they had such like an edge, which is like running. They didn't really need to like rely on it. It was a weird game. And I was like, oh yeah, he'll beat that total because he averaged 282, and he like comes 3 short of it or whatever. I was like, yeah. I knew they just had a good prop with that one. I was like, yeah, that's sometimes how it goes with the game script, right? It's just interesting.
Yeah, I was gonna take the under on Trevor, but if it was like at 230, I would have taken the under. But they put it down at 220, which is like 40 or 50 yards less than Derek Carr's total pass yards. So
that shows you just how good that defense is, right? For against passing, it's like
yeah. So that was my first indication that this game was like pitting two defenses that are so identical against each other. It was then when I started looking at the matchups, and I was just like, wow, it's like that meme with the Spider-Man pointing at each other. But the advantage goes to the Jacksonville Jaguars because they do lean on the run a little bit more.
Yeah, for sure. That makes a lot of sense. Like, yeah, and if you look at the data, like it supports it, right? It's like everything we're looking at is like, yeah, like I don't think either one's gonna have a blow-up game, particularly the injury for Lawrence, the line issues on top of it for Carr. It's just like it's not setting up to the best game for them. So they're going to, go down the checkdowns, the comfortable routes. Like you'll see like Michael Thomas will be involved with short routes. Like there's ways for them to alleviate those concerns, but like it's not, a blow-up spot. Like I'm forced into starting Lawrence in one of my leagues because I have no other starting quarterbacks on my roster. Like it's like, well, I got to roll Lawrence. It's like, all right, we'll see how this goes. I don't feel great about it, but yeah.
Nice. Well, but yeah, I think those are our four up bets. We'll tweet them out, and then we'll keep tabs on them for tonight. But I think this should be a good even match game, and it'll be interesting to see who comes out at top. Last week, I believe in interconference games, AFC won all the games.
Ooh, interesting.
We'll see. It was last week or the week before. I don't remember, but it was recently where AFC's won all of the games. So let's see how it kicks off Thursday night.
Right, and it's a better conference, so that makes sense, right? Like the teams in the AFC are just flat out better. Like the Jaguars, they're like a solid team and they're a contender in the AFC to a point. But if they're in the NFC, we'd be feeling a lot better about the Jaguars than we do in the AFC, right? But like we can go over these prop bets one more time. We have Christian Kirk over 4.5 receiving yards. Or sorry, 4.5 receptions, my exception. The Alvin Kamara free money over half a yard rushing. We have Travis Etienne over 89.5 rushing plus receiving yards. And Rashid Shaheed over 36.5 receiving yards. So like those are the four we're rolling with this week. We hope they help you make some cash.
I think we had a fifth one, right? We had the Alvin. I think you at least brought it up.
Yeah, and the other one that besides the free square is the Alvin Kamara over 4.5 receptions. So like if you want to double dip with those Kamara ones, absolutely. Because one of them's free square. Like you don't have to do anything. You just click it, you're gonna win money. So like that's the easy one. We wanted to give you one outside of that besides the free square. So yeah, Kamara 4.5 receptions. So yeah, we'll tweet those out. We'll keep track of those as the game goes on. Hopefully hit on them. It'll be good. If we go 5 for 5 this week, that would be a nice way to start the week off the weekend. But 3 of 5, I'm good with that too. As long as we're in the winning, baby, on the green all the time. How do you think this game's gonna go down?
Ooh, like I keep saying, they're identical teams. The Jacksonville run game is going to dictate it. I think it's 21-17 Jags win.
Ooh, so you would take the under because it's over under is 40.5 right now, and it's a 2.5 point spread. The Saints are favored. So basically, if this was a neutral game, this Jacksonville Jaguars would be favored by 0.5 point, right? Is the way I look at it. So you said 20-17 or 21-17?
21-17.
Yeah, like I don't think it's going to be very high scoring. I'd be surprised if both teams got over 20 points. Like that's kind of just what this game's looking at. So of course this game's going to be a shootout where it's like 35-28 or some nonsense, right? Like that's how it usually goes. But yeah, I'm going to bet on the Jaguars. I don't really like betting on the way teams on Thursday Night Football, but like with the Saints issues and everything going on, I just believe in the Jaguars. The one caveat is how injured is Trevor Lawrence. Like if that happens, then I'm out of it. But yeah, I'll take the Jaguars 24-21 in a close game, but like one they kind of control and just hold on enough and hold on. So yeah, I think it's gonna be a good game. But we got good offenses, good defenses. Like it should be an entertaining game. It's not gonna be one where like Tyson Bagent running the Chicago Bears offense, like we're gonna say like that. So yeah.
Oh God. Before we sign off, if you haven't had a chance, go check out Jesse's newest YouTube channel. I forget what it's called. It's tip of my tongue.
Oh,
Remind
the fantasy lowdown you're talking about?
Fantasy
Yeah.
Lowdown. His first clip with Adam Thielen is fire. Amazing work.
It's a
Definitely
lot
go
of
check
fun.
it out.
Like, it's more of a passion project. But I very much enjoyed. Like, I'm trying to bring in more, game data besides analytics on top of it. So, like, to kind of help you see how I see the game and how I look at it, like, just try to bring my perspective. So, yeah, like, if you like game breakdowns and tape breakdowns, looking at it, like, I very much think you'll enjoy this. So, yeah, come join me every Tuesday night, 5 o'clock Pacific time, 8 o'clock. I can't talk. 8 o'clock Eastern on League Winners channel. You'll see me breaking down the clips. I'm going to be doing Kyle Pitts this upcoming week, and yeah, that should be a lot of fun. And there might be a lot of tears, a lot of laughter, just because of how just like much of a disaster the whole Kyle Pitts situation has been. But I guarantee I'm going to walk away like, yeah, he's still damn good. Like, I'm already I'm going to be frustrated. But yeah, it's going to be fun. So yeah, come join me. And why don't you promote like the rest of your articles and all that stuff, bro?
Yeah. Every Wednesday, I update the Game Day Edge web pages at the League Winners, and then every Thursday I publish a Game Day Edge article. Also, kind of looking into those data, and then lastly on Fridays, I do write for Big Guy Fantasy Sports using their consistency tool, identifying start and sit at the running back, wide receiver, and tight end position. So yeah, definitely, follow me at the Pru Patel. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday are when I aim to publish stuff. So definitely go check us out.
Absolutely. You should definitely check it out. He puts out excellent content each week for you guys. So if you're looking for it, like, Pru's the person to go follow.
Awesome. Well, everyone, enjoy Thursday Night Football game today. And we'll be back here next week taking any questions, going over our prop bets, and otherwise enjoy week 7 of football.
All right. Take care, folks.